Hello again. Welcome to part two of our series looking at what it means for us to be a royal priesthood. That wonderful call upwards to share in God's work and what He is doing in our planet today. A real honor and a privilege for all of us. So today I'm going to look at the road to priesthood. In other words, how do we enter this calling, which we're all invited to? The clues are found for us in chapter 29 of Exodus, and you can pause the video now and read that, or you can read it later. I'll read a few verses now. This is a big, involved ritual, rich with culture of the day. Thankfully, we don't have to do any slaughtering of animals or anything like that today. We look back at this passage through the lens of Jesus Christ and His provision for us. But there are some great truths to be found as we do that. So I'm going to read from verse 4 to verse 7 just to give us a little insight into what that chapter involves. It says here, "Present Aaron and his sons at the entrance of the tabernacle and wash them with water. Dress Aaron in his priestly garments, the tunic, the robe worn with the ephod itself, and the chest piece. Then wrap the decorative sash of the ephod around him. Place the turban on his head and fasten the sacred medallion to the turban. Then anoint him by pouring the anointing oil over his head." That's already packed with imagery. Firstly, we see that God has arranged for all provision to be made for Aaron and his sons. They don't have to provide anything for themselves. They simply come to the invitation. They respond to the invitation. We are invited to the tent, to God's house, and everything else is provided for. They are chosen by God, by grace, for no other reason than that. We are a chosen people, a royal priesthood. You and I respond to God's invitation. This is His idea, not yours. So we can have confidence in His favor. And if we ever lack it, we say to Him, "Well, Lord, this was your idea. You chose me, and you don't make mistakes." That's where our confidence is placed. Secondly, they are washed. They don't even wash themselves. They are washed. Everything is done for them. Baptism is our washing experience, and yes, it is a washing away of the dust of what you were and what you've been through, but it's also a washing into the next phase. And for Aaron and his sons, that was into the priesthood, and so it is for us. So we can stand before God with confidence, clean hands and a pure heart. Thirdly, we see that they're clothed with the clothing provided for them. Again, this is grace. These garments are beautifully and skillfully made. They give them dignity. And I'll talk about this in a future video because it's so rich with imagery. But for now, let's just say that we got to put on Jesus Christ for our work as priests. We literally come in Jesus to God. Fourthly, oil is poured liberally over Aaron's head and over his garments. It says in Psalm 133 that oil dripped down his beard and off the very hem of his robe. Just a few more verses 19 to 21. "Take another ram." There's been a lot of blood in between these verses. "Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on its head. Slaughter it, take some of its blood and put it on the lobes of their right ear and on their thumbs of their right hand, on the big toes of their right feet. Splash the blood against the sides of the altar. Take some of the blood from the altar and some of the anointing oil and sprinkle it on Aaron and his garments, his sons and their garments. And then he and his sons and their garments will be consecrated." So they're atoned for. They're made at one with God. We talked about that last week. By the sacrifice of bulls and rams and all sorts, as we are by the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Again, it's all provided freely and generously. And then blood is put on their right ear, their right thumb, their right big toe. They are literally earmarked for God. They become God's possession. They are given over to God. They are made holy, separated from God as this blood is sprinkled on them. And they're ears attentive to him from that moment on. Their thumbs, their hands are for his service. Their feet are to walk in him as priests, to stand before him as priests. Hebrews 10:22 says this: let us draw near to God with a true heart in full assurance of faith, absolute confidence, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And that's how we become priests. We respond to God's free invitation. We turn our feet towards his house. We are washed. We are clothed. We are anointed. We are separated to him. And we agree with his affirmation of us. This is my beloved son, my beloved daughter, with whom I am well pleased. And with gratitude, we give ourselves fully to service in his priesthood. Kia kaha, kia maya, kia mana o nui.